Comprehensible input is language input that can be understood by learners even when they don't understand all the words and structures in a given text or bit of audio they are listening to. According to Stephen Krashen's theory of language acquisition, giving learners plenty of this kind of input helps them acquire language naturally, rather than learn it consciously. Or in other words, the lazy way to learn a language. Now it sounds too good to be true to be able to just chill and read and listen and magically pick up a language without much effort. In this case, French. But it worked quite well for me, and it works quite well for a lot of other people, including the goat that wrote that definition of comprehensible input, Steve Kaufman. But yeah, it does sound too good to be true, because it is. Because, like the definition says, the input or the material has to be mostly comprehensible to you already. So what if you're starting on day one learning French and you can't understand anything? You can't just pick up the Count of Monte Cristo and expect to understand it. Well, of course, that's what this video is about. These are the resources that I used to boost through the beginner phase and get to the most interesting material as soon as possible. The first resource that I have for you is a YouTube channel called Alice Ayel. Her channel is crazy underrated. It is such a powerful tool and was instrumental for me when I first started learning French. She has these videos where she explains things in very, very, very simple, slow French that you can understand on day one and start building up the most important vocabulary passively, essentially. And she does it all entirely in French. She has an amazing channel and she's insanely talented at teaching as well. She has this way of knowing that when she uses a certain word, she'll know that it is too high of a level for the listener, and she will find a way to make you understand that word in French, entirely in French. She'll explain the word entirely in French and you will pick up vocabulary like that. She has a really wide range of videos. Ones that I especially like are the ones where she is drawing out a story. But she has all kinds of videos on there. She has tons of material. You can start here with her channel and you can listen to it for however long you want, really. However, one downside of her channel is that it is very, very basic. You might outgrow it faster than you think, which is a good thing. You will impress yourself. But if you get bored with her channel faster than you think, you can always switch between her channel and something more advanced like a movie or whatever and switch back and forth to keep yourself entertained. Anyway, her channel is golden. And next is something that you can get to reading right away. And that is Ollie Richard's story learning books. Not the story learning class, the story learning books. He has the short story series, he has the 101 conversation series, and he also has the 30-day mastery series. My favorite personally is the 101 conversation series because it is one complete story over the course of 100 or 150 pages or so. Reading and rereading each chapter is more digestible for me, and it leads to me getting less burnt out when reading them. Try out any of those that you want. They're all written in extremely digestible French and they just work. They improve your vocabulary, and I can vouch for that because I've used these for every language that I've learned so far, except for Vietnamese. I used it for Spanish and Italian, and they have always helped me out immensely, no matter which level in the learning process that I'm at. Two things that I want to say about them though is the first is that I recommend it on ebook, because when you have it on ebook, if you don't know a word, it is so easy to just highlight the word and have it translate it from French into English for you. It really speeds things up for me. And the next thing is that there are instructions at the beginning of each of his books on how to read them. And they always involve reading everything twice. I think you can do this if you want, but I personally think if you force yourself to read every single chapter twice, it's like a really quick way to burn yourself out. So read them twice if you really want to, but if you just aren't feeling it, you just want to get some reading in and you just want to read it one time through, I think you should let yourself do that if you want. Anyway, that's Story Learning by Ollie Richards. Highly recommend. Okay, and next on the list, I'm going to mention a YouTube channel that is just masterful at giving you interesting stories and information, but doing it at a level of French that bridges the gap between beginner level conversation and intermediate level, all the way up to advanced, really, depending on how far you want to take it. And that is a YouTube channel called Inner French. The stories that he tells on this channel are engaging for anybody. They're always really interesting stories and things that you're actually going to be interested in learning. He has a bunch of videos about French culture, language learning acquisition theory in general as well, everything from French politics to how surf culture ended up in France. Always really good information. And the stories are so good to the point where sometimes native speakers end up on his channel, native French speakers end up on his channel, and they're like, why is this guy speaking so clearly and slowly? And he has to explain that it's because the videos are for learners of French, but the videos are just that interesting that other people watch them anyway. So this is the perfect example of the sweet spot of engaging material that is in digestible French, and it has helped me expand my vocabulary in French immensely. He also has a podcast by the same name, Inner French. Check him out. Okay, and next on the list is a podcast called Little Talk in Slow French. And essentially this podcast is the same exact thing as the Inner French YouTube channel that I just told you about, but in podcast format. She just tells really good, interesting stories in, as you can tell by the name of the podcast, slow French. But it's not junk material, it just happens to be in slow, digestible French. And if she knows a word or a phrase is confusing, she has this talent as well. She knows which words to explain to you in English. So sometimes she'll pause and say, oh, that phrase I know is a little bit confusing. This is what it means in English, and here's why it means that. Anyway, same concept. She has tons of amazing stories. A lot of them are about climate change, environmental protection, and things like that. She also has podcasts about culture, French politics, everything that you kind of would be interested in while you're learning French. I found that Little Talk in Slow French was the perfect podcast for me to put on and just walk around my neighborhood and just kind of passively pick up vocabulary and grammar and information. That's nice. Next up is another YouTube channel called Easy French. And if you know about these people, they're part of a bigger YouTube channel chain called Easy Languages. This is the one in French. And basically what they do is they go around and do street interviews about like everyday normal topics, and they interview people speaking real, genuine French on the street. But they're not like those annoying street interviews or anything. They're like genuine, good questions to ask people, like, oh, what do French people eat for breakfast? What do you think about dating in 2023 or whatever? Just things about like every normal daily life. But the kicker here is that everything is subtitled in French and English beneath it. So you can follow along fast spoken natural French with accurate subtitles directly underneath, and you can cover up the English subtitles to prevent yourself from relying on the English subtitles. It's not often that you can get subtitled, genuine, everyday, on the street French, because just having subtitles there improves your comprehension of it big time, and you might come across a lot of colloquialisms and things like that, which makes this resource extremely valuable. Okay, and last is a Google Chrome plugin called Language Reactor. And this plugin is a language learning life hack. This plugin gives you subtitles on any YouTube or Netflix video in 2 languages at once. Your target language and your native language, or whichever language you're learning your target language through. But the YouTube video has to already have subtitles put on it. But There are plenty of French creators out there that subtitle their videos in French. So what you can do is you can find any YouTube creator that you're interested in, and you can turn their content into something that is comprehensible for you, because you could always follow along the subtitles and read them at your own pace. You can also do it with most Netflix shows and movies. So this is kind of like a catch-all resource. You can use it for so many different things and do whatever you want with it. Adapt it to whatever your interests are, making it extremely invaluable. Use it all the time. And it's not even just a language learning tool. It's kind of like you can just have fun and chill and watch a movie, TV show, or whatever vlogger or YouTube video you want and enjoy that, but also just happen to have French and English subtitles underneath it at the same time, which is kind of like the magic of learning a language this way. You can chill. It's the lazy way. Okay, and that is it for all of my favorite and what I felt were the most effective resources for me when I learned French. That got me through the beginner stages to a conversational and then eventually an intermediate level as fast and painlessly as possible. When you learn French this way, you are delaying how soon you can speak the language, but I think one of the main advantages of it is that if you use resources like these, you will find that your motivation stays up longer than if you were to, read through a textbook or something like that. Things stay fun for longer, things stay really interesting, and I think that above anything else is the most important thing that helped me through learning French so far. And it's kept me going through this point because you can always go back to things that you find interesting. You never have to really push through a really frustrating, boring aspect of the language, because everything exists in French, exciting things and boring things. You can just focus on the exciting things that you like in the language. And I think that will keep you going. Okay, of course there will be links. I hope these resources help you out. Let me know what you think and let me know if you try these out and if they work for you.
That's nice.